So, you know, you're used to being in high intense situations, and just talk to us a little bit how you continue to hone in on your skills. You know, we have to maintain, keep playing at a high level, but also learning new ones. How do you manage your schedule? How do you kind of handle that when you're trying to, you know, perform at your highest?
I'm pretty lucky to be at the club I am at, and there's a lot of, not noise, but there's a lot of documentation that would suggest that Geelong do things a lot differently and a bit obscure compared to a lot of other clubs in the AFL. And you know, they're very relaxed, they're very player driven. It's not necessarily the top. It's not coming from the top being told down on what we have to do. The players sort of drive their own career a lot, and we get given sort of certain parts of the week and in the schedule that you know, we're asked to switch on and be intent with what we're doing. And but around that, it's sort of choose your own path, drive your own career, and it gives us a lot of time to refine our skills. And we've got the resources, we've got the indoor warm-up area, we've got the gym, we've got extra time after our sessions to focus in on what we need to do. And it can be specific, like it's sort of, like I said, choose your own adventure. If you want to work on your kicking, if you feel like your kicking wasn't up to scratch that day, you can go do that. Marking, goal kicking, tackling, ground balls, all that sort of stuff. So the program is sort of set up for you, and how you choose your time is up to you. And I've chosen to do that throughout my time here so far.
Diving in just a little bit more on that, you talk about honing in on your skills, like you said, kicking, getting the ground ball. How does your personal goals kind of meet the team's culture, the team's standards? Do you find that in your career, a lot of your personal goals kind of align to what the team is looking for?
It's pretty standard across all sports, I think. Like everyone wants to get better, everyone wants to earn the respect of their teammates, and I've certainly had that mentality coming into the program. You know, we all have the ultimate goal of everyone does they want to win the premiership, and I individually just want to contribute to my role in that team, and I know that how I sort of refer it to, and even my mates away from footy, is a well-oiled machine. We want to get going on all cylinders. We know that we have certain role players, we have our superstars, which, in my opinion, everyone on the team and everyone on the list is a superstar. Otherwise, they wouldn't necessarily be there. And everyone's got certain skills that they bring to the team. But if I can focus on what my role is, like, I know I don't need to necessarily have 35 touches a game and 15 tackles, as much as that'd be nice. It'd be creating a contest, bringing it to ground for the smalls if I'm not marking it, and then putting it through the big sticks when I'm needed to. So everyone knows that, what their role is, but how you equip yourself to do that role is completely up to you.
I think one of the generic, not even generic, one of the most common questions for any athlete is, what is your why? I mean, when you step out on that field, what is the purpose? Why do you feel like you're here in this space?
I think there's so many different answers that come to my mind when you first ask that. And even since a little kid, I've always been super competitive. Doing athletics as a young kid, there's sort of just you out there, and the team aspect of relying on your teammates and working in a team was something that really pulled me towards the sport that I chose in the end. And but ultimately, the very first thing that comes to my head is my family. My family is the reason I do anything for. I love representing my family, whatever it is I do, and obviously your family name's attached to you. Whatever that looks like for any individual can be a lot different, but I have quite a small family. We're really close. They're all over in Perth. We keep in regular contact, which is great. But whenever I do something, it's always, how will my family respond to this? And I never want to disappoint them, which is you know, behind the decision making of me. I never want to disappoint them, but I also never want to let them down. As much as they say you can never do that, you're making us very proud. I feel like every bad performance that I do is not letting them down, but, you know, has an impact on them. But yeah, even coming through as a junior, I never won, you know, best and fairest. I never won any sort of award, and I always wanted to not prove myself necessarily, but I always knew that my best is I never got, I don't know really how to say it. I don't want to say I didn't get recognised, because it sounds like I should have been, but it's just sort of, I never won any awards. I've been I've somewhat been a quiet achiever in a way, and it's all happened really quick. And as we touched on before, developing's been a big part of my story. So there are a few reasons as to why.
I mean, I could go back to, we spoke about a little bit earlier about my sixes.
Yeah.
Trust the process, you know? And more you can trust the process, fall in love with the process, it kind of just becomes a day-by-day thing. So I could kind of get where you're at when you're kind of just not hesitating on it, but it's just like there's so much in part of it. Like you can just hear the passion coming out your voice. And that's one thing that we like to talk about here is just like you're passionate about your craft and you can it shows just in the way that you handle yourself. Family's the biggest thing. I mean, I'm a big testament of that halfway across the world, but I love to hear that. And like you said, this is a part of your journey and you being who you are to this day. Just how do you kind of handle it? Setbacks come day to day. It could be very minuscule. It could be super, like, it could be large. So how do you kind of handle setbacks and kind of move through that?
Yeah, pretty broad term as well. Depends how you look at it. You know, you could have a good session out on the track, and then your next session could be quite not as good, and then you sort of how you deal with that. That could be a setback. You think, oh, you gain some momentum, and then you sort of take a bit of a dip in what you're wanting to achieve. But setbacks could be an injury. Setbacks could be, if you think about family, it could be something that happened in your family completely unrelated from sport. So setbacks, it's pretty broad, but I've been pretty lucky with injury. As I was speaking before to Zach, actually, I've been pretty lucky not to have any sort of soft tissue injuries, but I've had a few along the way. I had ankle surgery a few years ago, which has all been a part of it, coming through with that patience about sort of figuring out how I belong into feeling like I belong. It was a part of that. I sort of felt like I was having a really good pre-season. Hawk was injured at the time, so there was that window of opportunity to hopefully play at the start of the season. And then I went down with an ankle injury, and it sort of felt like my one opportunity to prove myself, it had gone, and how I sort of navigated through that. And I relied on a lot of different people. I relied on my manager, my family, and then obviously the people that are at the club as well, which was one. Going into my draft year, I had 2 fractures in my L5 in my spine, so I was pretty much put on rest for 2 months, couldn't do anything, and I needed to have my draft year to sort of help me get drafted. And then in and amongst that setback, I had COVID hit, so there was another. So setbacks is a whole range of different things, but if there's anything that can relate to all of them, it's speaking to people that can help you, and that again, that differs for everyone, but for me, relying on my family, relying on my friends, relying on the people that are on the ground here that I don't necessarily have because they're in Perth. I think trying to find things that don't waver, which is speaking about it, and being able to sort of outlet that frustration or the emotion that a setback can have.
Glad these are coming together, because I wanted you to give a little bit of advice and really talk a little bit more about the things that don't waver. So for somebody who looks up to you or, has situations that are similar, because like you said, setbacks are kind of broad and everybody has a setback of some sort in their life. So what kind of advice would you give somebody who's watching this right now? So like you said, I like the unwavering point. What would you give as just a little bit of advice?
I think you hear it quite often when people, and it's in the injury space in terms of setbacks, is look at the opportunity rather than the setback itself. There's an opportunity that I'm a big believer in. No one's perfect, and if you're looking at a player perspective, there's always, for me, if I think about myself, there's always opportunity to get better. And maybe an injury is a setback that maybe you can hone in on one of. So if I keep it for a genuine example, is you're down on your core strength, you have a setback. It's like, right, I'm going to go after obviously rehabbing that injury, but it's a great opportunity to get back or to build my core strength. Or if it's a foot injury, you can really work on your hand skills. And there's always an opportunity tied with a setback, which is try and relish that opportunity rather than let the setback draw you back into sort of those dark emotions that you can have. Think about the bright, like, if this can't quite go well, then I'm going to make this a really strong asset to my game.
Final part, because I'm learning from this as well. Because like I said, just as an athlete, and I'm sure anybody, even Zach, he's an athlete as well. And I know that you're over here, we can kind of relate. Obviously, totally different situations, but it's all about perspective. And this is one point that I really did want to hone in on, is emotion. Because I see for myself at the professional level, emotion it's like a sharp edge, right? Yeah. It's like it can be really good because your emotion can be like, oh, he wants it more. Yeah. And then emotion can also be like, oh, you're kind of like, like not doubting yourself, but there's two extremes, and we don't want to be on extremes as professional athletes. So how do you kind of like, what are your thoughts on your emotions and how to handle it going through that journey or through that setback?
If I pause the setback sort of aspect in terms of emotions, there's a sort of a part in my journey where I came into the system and VFL was my first crack at senior football. I'd never really played senior football before, so I was looking forward to that. And I went about my preparation, and obviously emotions leading into a game is a huge part of your preparation. And I remember I sort of would put headphones on, would listen to a podcast or some music and just sort of completely disassociate from those around me and the surroundings. And I sort of found that I was trying to hope that was a way of being distracted from the game. So I wasn't thinking about the game before I'd played it, because I was sort of getting caught in the emotions of playing a mental game before I'd been out there and played the physical game. So I tried to use that technique, and I thought I had to be really angry about 2 hours before the game, and it sort of became a thing 2 years after I'd been drafted, that I sort of felt like it wasn't me. Like, I'm not necessarily an angry person. I'm someone that feeds energy off other people. So I sort of completely flipped it on its head and was talking to people, not thinking about the game, just by having a laugh, being really casual about things. And then it might be similar to basketball. As soon as you pull the jersey on, the game's on. That's when you start to get the mindset going. So I sort of found myself, I was exhausted before I was playing, and the emotions can be really important. So it's finding a balance of, if you're going into any sport, requires a certain level of, you need to amp up. Just finding the right time to switch on and not wasting your tickets before you've spent them, sort of thing. You need to hold your anxiety. You need to hold your mindset until as close to the game as possible. Which is why I sort of try and be as casual, be as relaxed, have a laugh. Just have fun 2 hours before the game. There's no need to be serious so far in advance. So in terms of emotion, but in terms of setbacks, the emotions are natural of a roller coaster. You can't really tell someone that as soon as you get injured, try and smile through it, because it's not the reality of it. It's pretty upsetting. It can be, but the roller coaster is only natural. The ups and downs of a setback is completely natural. And I think if you accept that roller coaster of emotions, it becomes a lot easier. If you find yourself really upset, finding yourself in a bit of a hole, that's okay. It's natural. Everyone goes through it. Acceptance. But also try and find things around that injury or setback, whatever it may be, that keep you occupied away from it.
I think that, like I said, for somebody who performs at such a level that you do, this is really important, because they say the game is pretty much mental. It is. 80%, 90% maybe, and then the rest is all, like you said, is all between the ears. So I love that, because that's something that we all are going through. So we always like to bring it back to a center point and how this all relates to life. We all are trying to achieve whatever it is in our sports, or even just in our profession, or just in life. So how could you say your professional experience has shaped you as an individual, and how do you handle yourself in your day-to-day?
It's huge. And for yourself, you'd probably relate to this a lot as well, is being from Perth and moving to interstate. You got to grow up pretty quick, and you've got to figure life out. Obviously, moving interstate to a club where there's a lot of resources and networks within that to sort of help guide you down the right path. You've got to learn how to cook, do your own washing, make your bed, do all that, which in turn, ultimately and emotionally grows you up pretty quickly. You come home from training and you're tired, you're sore, or you come home from the game, you're tired, you're sore, and you just have that sort of I can't be bothered attitude, but no one's there to pick up the scraps for you, and no one's there to come home from a game, no one's there to cook dinner for you, no one's there to sort of do this. So you sort of had to get a grip on those terms pretty quickly. So I think just moving away from my family was a huge step in the maturity side of things, and just figuring it out for myself. It sort of sounds like I was sort of thrown in the deep end a bit, which probably isn't the reality of it. Like I said, I had a lot of resources around me to help make sure I was going okay, and if I needed anything, that they were there to help me. But I'm sort of someone that doesn't really ask for help. I feel like I'm a burden to people if I do that. So I've sort of taken it on my own chest to figure it out, and to be honest, I wouldn't have changed that. It's put me in a great position today. I feel like when I go home that I'm sort of, the most mature in the house, which isn't true, but I like to think I am. Moving away from home, I know a lot of my mates do it even though they're not necessarily in professional sport, they move away from home to pursue some opportunities, and they say it's the best thing they ever do. So not necessarily saying everyone has to move away from home, but yeah, you're sort of thrown in that end, and you sort of have to figure some things out for yourself pretty quickly.
Man, like you said, this is stuff that I can take away from this. I'm thankful for you sharing the story, because for me, it helps show the connection just across sports, across the world, from totally different places. But I think that people can look at this and really understand, like, hey, take a chance on yourself and really believe in it. I think success, in a sense, I'm not even talking about like in terms of, oh, my career is super successful, just as an individual, to choose that type of lifestyle to where you take control over your emotion, your day-to-day, is super empowering. So I think that for us, like I said, as a podcast and people that we're talking to, is just showing that empowerment, that control that you have over yourself.
Definitely.
And I thank you for coming in here and sharing
Appreciate
your story,
it.
because
Thanks so much.
this was super like insightful, and it helped me out
Absolutely
as much as it could the others. But thanks again for coming
Appreciate
in, man.
No worries.
This was a pleasure. The
Thanks
time.
for
Thanks
having
for
me.
helping me out on the field.
No worries. Hopefully it holds you in good stead.
You probably never see me start that career. I heard that it's like a common thing. People
Nah,
from
that's fine.
basketball go over to footy, but it won't be me. But I'll stick to basketball.
Yeah.
But thanks again, man.
No worries. Thanks for
That
having
was
me.
good.
Appreciate
Always.
it.